Here are 5 things to think about to increase your accuracy as an archer and bow hunter. So the first thing, step number 1, we're gonna start with grip. Everything about archery is all about consistency and repeatability. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about the grip, if we're talking anchor, peep, how you hold the release. Being consistent and repetitive is step number 1. But the first step is how we grip the bow. So we've got to be extremely consistent with the way that we grip the bow. And don't just grab it and shoot arrows. Like have a plan, have a technique, have a system that you go through for every arrow that you shoot. So how we grip the bow is really important. We don't want to grip it too much out on the thumb, because the thumb has flex and is not going to be consistent shot after shot. We don't want to be too much on the left side if you're a right-handed archer and you hold the bow with the left hand. We don't want to be out here, because that is actually going to bring your elbow and arm in and you may get some clearance issues. The most comfortable place and the most consistent place to grip the bow is right in this line between the meat of your thumb and then call it the valley between your thumb and your index finger. So that comes right in here and sits hard against that bone. That is a very consistent grip, shot after shot, whether you're shooting in the summer and it's 80 degrees or it's late season hunting and it's 10 degrees. That is how you want to grip the bow every single time. That's step 1. Step number 2, and this often gets overlooked, and I've got different releases here. We've got index finger releases, hinges, thumb buttons, and tension. I shoot a handheld release and I kind of vary the release I shoot, but how you grab the release and where the release sits in your hand, again, has to be consistent every time. If I take one shot and it's deep on this knuckle, the next shot's here and the next shot's out on the tips of the fingers, how that release fires, where that arrow hits is going to change. So you've got to get into a consistent routine on release position. Obviously it's a little bit more critical with a handheld, but those are more and more popular, especially the thumb buttons to hunt with. But even with an index finger style, you know, how you buckle that and in what position that buckles in and where it's attached to your wrist, you know, you have to be very consistent about that. If you hunt with a glove on later in the year, you should practice with that glove, because you may need to move that notch, you know, one position, and then that could change the overall length of your release minutely, but it may be the difference of where that trigger is hitting your finger. You may have to reach for it a little bit more, or it may be deeper. So just don't overlook the release and how you either attach it to your wrist or where you hold it in your hand. So steps 3, 4, and 5, in my opinion, are really related and connected. So the steps are anchor point, peep, and then face pressure. So those 3 are all very, very connected, and let's talk about each of them individually. When we talk about anchor point, everybody's hand size is different, everybody's face structure, jaw line is different. There is no right or wrong position on how you anchor. The most important thing is find something that is comfortable and repeatable. It's something you have to do every single time. The anchor point has to be the same if you're shooting at 15 yards or if you're shooting at 115 yards. Archery is all about repeatability. Anchor point is critical. So things that tie in with anchor point are obviously going to be peep locations. So you're going to find your anchor first, establish that, and then your peep height is set based on, again, your anchor point and the distance from your eye to the anchor and how that aligns with your peep sight. So once you have a consistent foundation with your anchor, you can set a peep sight that is going to be in the perfect position every time you draw and find that home anchor point position. So this is kind of like the check and balance, right? If your anchor's off, your peep's not going to be in perfect alignment and vice versa. So those two are very connected. As it relates to peep sight, you know, matching your peep sight aperture size with your housing size is really important. But again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Some guys want an oversized peep where they can see all of their housing and some daylight around it. Others try to match aperture size to aperture size at full draw. It's really a personal preference, and you need to play around with it and find out what is going to be the best for you and is going to give you the most accuracy. The fifth step is going to be pressure. And when I say pressure, it's going to be related to your anchor point, but more about how the string touches your face. It's just another step in the anchor point chain. You obviously want to make nose contact with the string as just another reassurance that your face and string is in the proper position. You don't want to push too hard. You don't want to be so light that you can't feel it. There is a fine-tuned place for everybody of pressure. But the one thing to note is the one thing you don't want to do is push so hard that that string is essentially deflected, or you're moving the string off that natural forward movement that it wants to do. So light pressure is key. There are some companies that make items that are called like a nose button, or you could tie on a soft knock where you feel that button or that bump come back and touch the same position on your nose every single time. We've got a lot of nerve endings in our nose, and you'll be able to consistently find that place once you establish something that's comfortable for you. So hand anchor point, light pressure on the string, or using a nose button to go back to that same position every time, and then making sure that peep is perfectly centered over your housing will give you ultimate accuracy downrange.